Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. Today we're getting into another Marvel Legends figure, but this is a set, so a Marvel Legends figure set. Don't mind if you hear some sound in the background, that is my guinea pigs. So, um, in this set right here, you obviously see we have Hulk and we have Bruce Banner. Now there's the gray Hulk. Now I was actually looking to try to get my hands on whatever kind of Hulk that I could get, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get my hands on any kind of green Hulk because all of them are extremely pricey. But what's nice about this is that it's actually the latest version of the Hulk, regardless of that it's the gray Hulk. So at least you know you're getting the latest sculpt. And from what I've seen, this one has some updated sculpt features on it versus the older green one. But nonetheless, I'm actually happy to get this figure. Normally, I've always been the type who said that, I always prefer Hulk being green. But in this case, I actually really like this gray one just from the images I've seen of it. And it really doesn't kind of throw me off to have a gray one in my collection as my main one and only one. So here, taking a look at the box, it says Gray Hulk and Dr. Bruce Banner. You see images in the background of that very first showing and Avengers Beyond Earth's Mightiest. So this same kind of box art has been on a few, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Black Widow Target exclusive. So it's kind of interesting how some of these have this type of set box and some of them have more of a black box background rather than white. So I'm not really too sure what makes them distinct one versus the other. You see some of the art on the side of the box. Or on the back, you see what it comes with in the poses. So pretty much the primary figure is the Hulk here, while Bruce Banner is kind of like a side figure because he has all of the accessories that go to him. And images of the figures here on the side. So we're going to get into this. Now, obviously, anyone who watches the channel knows that sometimes with any figure that has a clear box type of packaging, I often will not open it because I want to try to collect some of these and have them inside the boxes. But the ones where you cannot see them, I always opt to open them simply because you're not even able to see the figure on the inside. And at some point, as I always mention, I may end up opening the ones that I do not open as a review, but at that point, I may re-review them. But in the meantime, well, that's not going to be the case with this one, so there's no point in getting into that for this figure here. Let me see how it opens. If for whatever reason I end up having trouble, I will pause the video and get the figures out. And already I can tell you that packaging, okay, it's coming out now, but it gets a little stuck in there when you try to pull it out yourself. I don't want to damage the box, even though I kind of did a little bit. So for anyone who might get this, it's better just to let gravity do its thing versus you trying to pull it out yourself because I do want to save the box. Now, here we go with the figures. This is a very chunky piece right here. This is that lamp post or pole or whatever you want to consider it. There are sunglasses here. I mean, not sunglasses, but regular glasses. Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And these are probably his. No, this is the head, so I guess the additional hands are inside there. But let's jump into it. I'm going to adjust the camera angle so we can kind of see the figure a little better in hand. Throw the box off to the side. Don't mind the mess. So I'm just going to jump into some of the accessories first and right away. Let's hope I do not cut myself. Here we have the glasses. They look pretty nice. They're like a clear plastic with some black paint on them, maybe what it appears. Let's see what we have here. I'll throw this stuff in the screen so you guys can see it. Now, I think that this is a bonus head that the Hulk has, and I actually am a fan of the head sculpts on these. They actually look really good. I'll be honest, and I can't really speak to any of the other ones, but based on the Wolverines that I had reviewed previously and how they have that kind of photorealistic look to them, I would say that this head to me almost looks like it'd be almost like a photorealistic what like say a like if they made a head out of not CGI but like say in a movie and it was a costume, like it just looks very detailed. I'm actually really excited about this set here because like I said, I don't have a Hulk in the collection. Hulk is actually one of, if not my favorite character. I really like this version. There goes his pipe that he's crunched. It would be in his hand like that. Have his two additional hands. These are his grasping hands. You see the details on them. Looks really nice. Fingernails. Has the creases inside the palm of the hand. Really nice. Able to get a grasp on this. This one obviously can't. And I'm going to take a look at Bruce Banner here. Make sure I keep this all in screen because sometimes I might have a tendency to hold it up closer to my visual. You guys may not see it that well. So he's got the tie. Now, I don't really go over all the kind of articulation stuff because I mean, everyone's already seen all these kind of things before. Just really just reviewing the figure itself. Um, some people say that he looks more like a Peter Parker. I mean, there's so many different versions of Bruce Banner and how he looks. So it's really hard to say. All right, you guys, sorry about that. I had a little bit of distraction. So with my guinea pigs. So people say that he looks like Peter Parker. There's been a lot of different incarnations of Bruce Banner in terms of different media and how he looks. So some of them makes him look very scrawny. Some of them makes him look, not so much of the glasses wearing nerdy kind of guy. So there's always different versions of him, like the old Bill Bixby one. He didn't look very nerdy at all. He just looked like a regular average guy. You have different versions of him, like I said, that where at least in comic media, he looks overly nerdy. Some of them where he's been around so long that now he's got a little bit more charisma about him. So this one is more heavy on the nerdy side, but nonetheless, so some people say it looks like Peter Parker, but I still think it can be a young Hulk. And keep in mind too, they might say that because he looks young, but I think you also need to understand that this is supposed to be depicting the version of him that started in the beginning, which was very young. You can tell based on the box art there that, he was young back then, and this kind of, I feel, depicts that pretty well. So, yeah. But anyway, let's jump into the meat and potatoes of this set. Can I get him to stand? Let's see. That seems to be something a little bit difficult. Oh, maybe if I lean him a little more forward. Apparently not. What's funny is I don't have a problem at all getting Jurassic Park characters to stand, the 3 3/4 inch ones, which I was standing up just earlier today, and this one right here I'm having a hard time with. So he's not going to be able to stand. Now comes the meat and potatoes of this set. Now, like I said, Hulk is probably my favorite character of all characters, and it's nice to be able to have a Hulk in the collection. And though it's not the green one, I don't feel bad about that. Normally, back in the days, I probably would have been like, I need to have a green Hulk. But one, they make this one with the same size sculpt as um, the green one. So it's not like I'm getting a smaller Hulk by getting this gray one, even though technically it's not supposed to be the same size as the green one. But I kind of like it in this case because for those who can't get a green one, which I think the 20th anniversary is the latest one, and that one is going for over $80 or something around that range. So yeah, I really like the way it looks, and you can see his size is so much more substantial than Bruce Banner, but yet not oversized as well. So one thing that I've seen in a lot of videos that will depict. Give me one moment. I'm gonna change the angle. Okay, so one thing that I would notice is, you know, in the comics and different media, you always have a lot of times characters are depicted, especially the muscle characters are depicted as being superly oversized, over the top versus their actual measurements and size. And, some characters are just extremely big. Now, granted, this character is going to be proportionately larger than what the actual Hulk normally stands at. But nonetheless, he doesn't seem overly exaggerated from that height. And the reason why I say that is because I know that you have the select figures that sometimes people purchase and use them as their main figures, which is fine if you want an over exaggerated look. But generally speaking, for example, the Hulk, who actually is probably one of, aside from Sasquatch, is pretty much the largest big guy in Marvel in terms of strong guys. Um, he stands at 7 feet tall. The green one. This is not the gray one. The green one stands at 7 feet tall and weighs 1,040 pounds. Now, comparison to Juggernaut, Juggernaut is 6'10" and weighs 900 pounds. So a lot of times you'll have where they're both depicted the same size, or sometimes Juggernaut's depicted as bigger because in the X-Men comics they love to make him oversized, and then sometime when he's next to Hulk, they'll bring him down a little bit just so he's not bigger than Hulk or maybe comparable to Hulk. But Hulk was always the biggest of all. Now, not necessarily the Gray Hulk. The Gray Hulk was 6'6" and weighed 900 pounds, roughly. And so he's a considerably a lot smaller than his green counterpart, even though I like that this one's depicting him since the same sculpt as the green, like I said, for the fact that if you can't get a green, you still get to depict him in his full size, even though he's the gray version. So some people may not like that. I like that simply because I'm not going to be able to get a hold of a green version. Um, and so I like that he's the full size of what Hulk should be. Here you have the orange shirt that is underneath here, just ripped and stretched, and it fits on him very well. Um, so that's really cool. He looks nice with it on, or you can take it off. Like I said, you see the head sculpt on him. I like that look, or you can go for just the plain look without any facial expression. The muscles look really nice. He has butterfly joints, but because he has so much chest muscles, he cannot really move his arms forward, but he can move them back. He's very heavy figure. Some people say that the green one had more detail in the stomach and in the chest area, making it look more ripped and cut, while this one is a little less, like it's more smooth. I would almost say it's less, but it's almost like they're saying it's more smoothed out, a little more comic like. And a lot of people said they like that because they don't want to see the Hulk to be super ripped. I think either one works the same. It doesn't really matter. Though I will say when you have less detail in it, it gives you more of like a comic version than it does more of like a, say, realistic version. I think the jeans look really nice. In the other green version, he has paint on the bottom to represent like the whiteness of the ripped hairs. I don't think that matters here to have that or not, because the truth is, if you did have a ripped pair of jeans, some of them might show like a white kind of ripped threading, some of them won't. So I don't think that's a big deal. I think this figure just looks really nice. And like I said, I'm completely fine with this being the only Hulk in my collection, which it probably will be for a long time until one day they release another new Green Hulk, which I have no problem waiting for because I think this one just looks amazing. And I am not going to pay the prices for the other ones. One, the select version, Marvel Select version, I didn't like the idea of being too oversized anyway. Sometimes it's nice having oversized. We want to have that comic feel where it just makes it an oversized character. But generally speaking, I'm really big on scale. A lot of people know that from watching this channel already, especially with the Jurassic Park line. And I like characters to fit into a scale where each other character next to them has a good proportion. So, for example, if you have the Hulk figure from a select line or Juggernaut figure from a select line, and he's oversized and he's the equivalent of, say, since in this 6-inch scale, 1 inch equals a foot. If he's like, say, 9 inches, it's 9 feet tall. The problem with that, well, matter of fact, let me measure this figure first because I actually think this figure might be 8 and some change, close to 9 inches as is. Yeah, he's roughly about 8.5 inches tall. Now, the problem when you have like a, say, 9, 10, 11 inch high figure is that there's nothing wrong with that for the over exaggerated figures like, characters like Hulk, Juggernaut, and whatnot, and those other big characters. The problem comes in the fact that once you get other characters, and if they're not of that specific line, then now they're not going to be as proportionate. Other big characters. So, for example, there's there is the Colossus figure, for example, in the Select line, and he's way bigger than the Colossus in the Marvel Legends line. So now, if you have him next to somebody else who should be more like bulkier than him, it may not look that way because the Select version is bigger. Though Colossus is a very funny character when it comes to the height and size because he's actually very slender for a big guy, but he's actually one of the tallest big guys at 7'5" and weighing 500 pounds. He doesn't weigh a lot because he's not very wide, while someone like the Thing is only 6 feet tall, which is very short relative to a lot of the other characters, yet weighs 500 pounds also, which depicts he's a lot wider because he's a lot shorter than Colossus, but weighs the same amount. Colossus in his non-armored form is 6'7", so he's actually taller than the Gray Hulk would be normally when he's not even in his armored version. But Colossus is one of those characters who they never depict his true height because technically, if he's standing next to Juggernaut, he would be taller than Juggernaut by a considerable amount, though he would be thinner. And a lot of times you always see Juggernaut depicted as being way bigger than Colossus. But anyway, coming back to this, so I really like the figure. I like his accessories. There aren't a lot to it, but I just really enjoy them. And I also like talking about the comic aspects of these characters, so don't mind the ramble when it comes to that. So like I said, I really do like the size of it. Keeping within Marvel Legends sizing, it allows you to stay in line with other figures that also might be big. And I have a few other characters that I'm going to review later on the channel that will also be big, but proportionate to within Marvel Legends scaling and size, it will make this Hulk not feel dwarfed by any of them because he fits within the line, as opposed to if it was a select figure or whatnot. He's not going to stand up on his own. Just want to put him next to him again for one last shot. And with that being said, you guys, comment down below if you have any thoughts, any questions about the character. Because like I said, I'm a very big fan of the details on the superhero characters. One last measurement that I want to do, because I used to always say to myself about like the wideness of the Hulk also. And here he is about 5 inches wide, so it'd be like he's 5 feet. So what's interesting when it comes to stuff like that is that you were able to take a tape measure that out in your home, maybe against a wall, put some tape up for markings, so you can get an idea of how big some of these characters actually would be standing next to you. A long time ago, and if I ever can find this character again, because I think I have him somewhere in storage, I had an old version of the Hulk, and this was a version that was based off of the old cartoon. I think that was in the 90s, maybe. And he didn't look like that version, but he came out in around that time because of the cartoon. But he didn't look like the cartoon, and he came out around the time of the 90s X-Men figures that used to be out way back. I don't know who used to make them. Is it Toy Biz? I think, but I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And what was very interesting is that figure had proportions that actually fit a lot like how Hulk's actual proportions would be for his height and weight and size. Now, what's funny is that I like the proportion of a figure like this far better than the way Hulk's actual proportions would be based on his height and size. Because this one right here, like I said, is showing him at about 8.5 feet. The truth is, Hulk kind of needs to be 8.5 feet, 9 feet for his proportions to make sense with how wide he is, how much he weighs, and his height. But that figure that I had, like I said, if I can find him again, I will throw him on the channel. It was very interesting because he was shorter than this figure. So maybe about, I don't know, 7 inches high, maybe. But he had a really wide body, and it looked like how he looks in the comics, yet he's so wide versus his height level. So it's not proportionate to a normal man size. It's just, if I could show it, you'd understand what I'm saying. But it looked just like the comics, where most of the time in the comics, Hulk does not look like a muscular man with regular man proportions. He almost looks like his chest is wider than the proportionate size of someone his height should have. His legs, his everything is wider. And it's like he's almost this box shape. And that figure depicted that very well, even though, like I said, to make Hulk really work with normal human proportions, you have to make him a little taller than 7 feet for his width to really make sense, because that other figure was maybe about about 5 inches wide as well. But the difference was that at about maybe 7 inches tall, it just made him look very boxy. It looks very comic accurate, but it still looks very boxy. So I just wanted to throw that in there about his height, and how, even though he is supposed to be 7 feet, at least the green version is, that you kind of have to make Hulk a little bit taller. And most of the big guys, you have to make a little taller for their proportions to make sense. So, but as long as they're all within scale of each other, it works. Sorry for the rambling, but as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.